Gotta get to your house. Big brown eyes, pretty pink dress. Gotta get to your eyes. House. Big brown hair, pretty pink eyes. Dress. Gotta get to your house. Hair, big brown dress, hair, eyes. Gotta get to your pink house. She ain't home.
Hello, folks. I'm Terrell Jones. I'm the assistant to the chairman of the board of Coscott Interplanetary Incorporated. You know, a year ago, I was working on my doctorate at the University of South Carolina in mathematics. If anybody had told me then that right now I'd have given up my 3-year fellowship, working on this degree, and gone into the cosmetic business, I'd have told them they were crazy. But also, if anybody had told me at that time that now, a year later, I would be earning more per month than I intended to earn in a year's time, again, I'd have said they were nuts. But I'm happy to say right now that both of those things have come true. This program here is the most fantastic thing in the world. You see, when I ran into Mr. Turner, I was trying to learn how to earn $12,000 to $15,000 a year. And Mr. Turner, with a severe handicap and an 8th grade education, was earning $30,000 a month. Well, I figured I was doing something wrong, wouldn't you have thought so? I'm here, and I have the privilege of introducing to you the most fantastic individual that you will probably ever meet in your lives. This man tells you and is a living example of what man can accomplish when he believes in himself. You know, some people that believe in themselves can take a lump of stone and carve a work of art so beautiful that it transforms people's lives. This man here, Glenn Turner, has carved his work of art from a lump of stone, a stone of disbelief, doubt, and complacency. His work of art is Coscott. He believed in himself so strong that he came from the earth where he was a sharecropper on a tobacco farm, and he raised himself up with his tremendous attitude toward life and his philosophy on helping others to well on his way to earning millions and millions of dollars. I want you to meet the man who created this company from his dream. The sharecropper on his way to harvest the world, the chairman of the board of Coscott Interplanetary Incorporated, Mr. Glenn W. Turner.
I'm very lucky to be here tonight because down in Wilson they got some awful women down there on Charlie over. At 3 o'clock last night, and a drunk woman beating on my door, and I had to get up and let her out. I want you to know. You know, I had a guy out here a while ago, with 2 guys walking down the street, and I was listening to the conversation. One of them says, you know, since I got so many worries on my mind, said if something was to happen to Stephen, it'd be 2 weeks before I get to worry about it. Another one says, well, if you see all these rich folks running around, said, dang, if you get rich, you can't take it with you. By that time, a funeral procession came by, and there's a Wells Fargo truck mixed up in the funeral procession. One of them said, who said you can't? I had a friend one time, he stuttered a lot. He was walking down the street with this other fellow, and he said, see that? The guy said, no, I didn't. He said, man, she was something. Walked a little further over, and he looked again, and did you see that? The guy said, no, I didn't. He said, take me out. Walked a little further down the street, you know, and he said, what? You know what I mean? Did you see that? He said, no, I didn't. What a kid. Walked a little further down the street, you know, and he said, did you see that? The guy said, yes, I did. He said, what did you step in it for? Business. I didn't know you were supposed to check it out. I was just a dumb old country boy. I didn't know you were supposed to take advice of people making $5,000 and $10,000 a year trying to learn how to make that much a month. I assumed that if they knew how to do it, they would be already doing it. Are you with me on that? Right. So while my banker and my lawyer was checking it out to see if I had been hooked properly, I earned $8,900. The banker wouldn't hardly cash the checks until they cleared it the other end. After a while, he got conditioned, he was all right. But you see, if you look at something and figure out why it won't work, forget it and go back to what you're doing and make it work. Because if you try to figure out something wrong, I can figure out something wrong with any establishment in this town. If you don't have the right attitude on life, you're never going to amount to a hill of beans. If you plant beans in the ground, what's going to come up? Peas? Certainly not. Beans. If you're thinking negative about something, what's going to come out? A positive thought to tell you can do it? Certainly not. You're going to say, I can't. When your little baby falls down on the ground when he's a baby, and you tell him what, and your neighbor tells him what, oh, honey, get up and do it again. You don't deceive first. Try it again, don't you? Everybody loves a little baby, and you got a beautiful personality, don't you? When you're a grown man, knowing you try it in business, or you try something that the average people does not understand, what happens? You're a crook, aren't you? this. They criticize what they are scared to totally investigate and find out the true fact. It's hearsay. Why do we criticize our neighbor? I have yet to see a statue erected to a critic. Have you? Why? It's because anything a man does not understand, he is afraid of. It makes him feel small. All he's got to do is get in it and go with it, and he'll become just as successful, provided he's got the right attitude. The only difference is you sitting in that audience making what you're making per month, and the man is making more sitting next to you, and he knows something you don't know. When you make it your business to find out what he knows and get the same kind of attitude on life that he has got, then you'll become just as successful. If you think you're a small man, you are a small man. You got to reach high and aim higher. Maybe I'm getting like Terrell Jones. Spend $1,000 on my eyes, can't get my mouth where it happens. You got to aim high and reach higher. This is a world where the American people are the most brainwashed people on the face of this earth. We've been having it so good all our lives. We've been provided all these wonderful jobs where we can make 5, 10, 15, 25,000 a year, and we've been told what a wonderful deal we got by so many millionaires. If we got such a good deal, why ain't they working for us? Does that make sense? Andrew Carnegie became one of the wealthiest men on the face of the earth. He was a common laborer in a steel mill. Do you have more education than he did? If he can do it, what is the secret? The secret is he had a different outlook on life than you, and he would not listen to people that told him he couldn't do something. Henry Kaiser was worth $3 billion when he died at the age of 85. He built a city over in Hawaii. The reason this man was so rich, it was said by his competitors that this man was just stupid enough to believe that he could do anything. It pays to be intelligently ignorant. Please. The smartest people on the face of this earth and in this city are working for the government. They're working for the business, big businessmen. They're working for men that's not as smart as them. And they don't want you to learn nothing, or you'll get up there, won't you? Let me tell you, you can stay brainwashed if you want to. But when my kid gets to be a grown man, I want him to look at me with pride. Are you say the same thing? Are you going to let criticism from your neighbors keep you from rising and becoming something? Most people never go into business for themselves because they're scared of what the neighbors are saying. An old country doctor drove up in the back of a drugstore down in Georgia around the turn of the century. He went inside and he dickered with the drug clerk. For several hours they whispered back and forth, big deal. Wooden floor. He finally sold him a slip of paper for $500 with some ingredients on it. The old doctor went outside and threw into boot an iron kettle and a wooden paddle. The druggist started to mix these ingredients. He put one thing that wasn't on the paper. It was imagination. Today, this product is sold throughout the world. It can tell stories of love, romance, hate, anything you can name if it can talk. It supplies billions and billions of dollars in revenue. It supplies thousands and thousands of jobs. Glass factories that profit by it. Secretarial work, business machines, computers. Anyone know what this product is? Coca-Cola started in the mind of one man. Don't you reckon a lot of people had the chance to get in on it? The 8 months it was in business and they laughed at it. It's going to be the #1 Coca-Cola. In my hometown, there were 2 fellas named S&S. Don't want to get sued. One of them was farmers. One of them started off with a wheelbarrow with a franchise for a few dollars, pushing around with ice in it, and his brother said, "When you're done, man, you mean you're going to lower yourself to peddle them drink for a penny apiece? You ought not to lower your dignity like this." Today, his relatives control 5 or even 6 counties on the Coca-Cola franchise. His brother's relatives are still flying the mule and the tractors. Difference in attitude, difference in nerve, same family, same blood. One man dares to be different. Isn't it a crying shame that I can stand on this platform and others stood up there before you and others that stand behind me and make more money per week and per month than you earn in a year simply because we know something you don't know? Make it your business. If a man's willing you to teach you what he knows, then you can become just as successful. We have an organization here. The first thing that scares a man is these wild figures. The next thing scares him is, you mean y'all work together and help your fellow man? Well, this is a dog world, boy. America is looking for people that can pull together and work together. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the way we believe. I read over 40 letters in my hand today. It brought tears to my eyes. The people of the state, their feelings of this program in Costco. I have over 1,000 letters in my office in Florida. Come down and look at them, will you? Is it worth a round-trip ticket to get the facts, to put yourself in a good financial position the rest of your life? You're not willing to look at it. More than 1 hour session, you don't deserve any more than you got. I am going to build an orphanage in every state from part of the proceeds that comes out of this country. I'm going to teach young boys and girls that people don't want how to be positive thinkers, good outlooks on life. By the time they become, I'll be 38, I imagine, before I started. I'm 33 now. By the time I'm 58 and they're grown men and women, can you imagine the confidence and the ambition these people will have? Don't you wish somebody would have took you when you was a baby and trained you with this attitude? You wouldn't have any negative thought. You wouldn't say, "Oh, gee, it might not work." I don't know it won't work. And it's working. There once was a man who had a son that wanted to be a great writer. The man was thrown in jail because he couldn't pay his taxes in England. His son had to take a room with 3 other boys from the slums of London and sleep with them in one room on one bed. He worked in a factory, a rat-infected factory, where he pasted labels on the back of bottles. He would write his manuscripts, and the friends, the people, these slum boys, the one that stole and did this and that other, laughed at him so hard for trying to be different and trying to be somebody that he would go out at night and write in the moonlight and mail it in the dead of the night to the news editors. Manuscript after manuscript was refused. Finally, after many, many manuscripts, but not never given up. Not to pardon my English, I quit the 8th grade. The teacher didn't make enough money for me to listen to. Here's what happened. An editor accepted one article for publication. It thrilled this young man's soul and it brought tears to his eyes, and he walked the streets of London all night. The recognition from one editor to one young boy changed the path of his life. You might have heard of this young man in later years. His name was Charles Dickens. There was a young man who wanted to be a singer in Italy. The mother took this young lad to a music teacher, and he says, "Forget it, lady." Says his voice sounds like the wind coming through the shutters. She said, "Son, don't you listen to him. He's not an expert as he thinks he is. You have a beautiful voice. And she went barefooted on the streets to save the money to send him to music school. You might have heard of this young gentleman in later years too. His name was Caruso. How are you going to encourage your children? How do they look at you? What do you want out of life? Why don't you provide the nice things like somebody else do? Simply because most of us dare to dream big dreams and then do something about them. A man would have told me what I'm listening to here tonight, what I'm saying 2 years ago, I would have called him the biggest idiot on the face of the earth. Because I didn't understand the power of positive thinking. I thought I knew more than anybody else. I was called a ding dong kid in my town the first 20 days I was in the business. I was called a smear king. The second month they said he's bootlegging whiskey, but it wasn't. I bought a new airplane, they said I bet he's peddling dope. Everybody can always figure out something, can't they? We will be the #1 cosmetic company. An article appeared in the paper up in the northern cities 100 years ago read like this. The detectives of our fine police force are being commended. They have arrested and apprehended the criminals and have them in the city jail for trying to extort funds from well-meaning citizens on a device they call a telephone. Now, any normal person knows that you cannot talk over a wireless contraption. Any well up-to-date citizen in this town knows that this is totally impossible. Again, we thank the prompt action of our fine police department for taking such prompt action. Silly, isn't it? Huh? But it wasn't to them, was it? Because they failed to understand the total facts of this telephone. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be misinterpreted. But we are right. We know where we're going. Most people don't know where they've been, much less where they're going. Most people, you and I know, spend more time planning a vacation than they do sitting down and outlining what they want out of life. When you are right, you know you're right, and your Lord and Maker knows you're right, you stick your gun and you'll win in the end. You weasel out and run. You don't believe in yourself. You don't even deserve the crumbs from the table. You ever heard the old expression that dogs like bones? If dogs set the table, who do you think would get the bones? You know that the hardest thing about getting to the top of the ladder is getting through the crowd at the bottom. And the thing about doing the impossible is you don't have any competition. Nobody thinks you can do anything, so nobody dares to try. It's impossible. You can't do it. Nothing's impossible. And I am proud to say that I am dumb enough to believe that I'll be a billionaire, and I'll take many a millionaires up with me. Not only in the cosmetic business, but other firms that will branch off of this. We're negotiating now to buy a packaging plant, package products and ships. You go out and you buy an automobile, it depreciates $2,000 in 2 years, right? Put $2,000 in my business. In 2 years, you got your product. No, you give it a beauty shop that you're selling it. What's the big decision?
The nation that had reached its last frontier in 1890 was fascinated by size and power. Its ambitions in business and diplomacy became imperial. Vast industrial combinations or trusts threatened the existence of smaller businesses. Great power was concentrated in the hands of few men. The first measures taken by the federal government to discourage such concentration was the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890. It declared,
every contract, combination in the form of trust or otherwise, or conspiracy in restraint of trade or commerce among the several states or with foreign nations, is hereby declared to be illegal. Every person who shall make any such contract or engage in any such combination or conspiracy shall be deemed guilty of a misdemeanor.
Yet such a law could be effective only if it was energetically enforced. The Sherman Antitrust Act was seldom enforced against trusts. In 1899, John D. Rockefeller, whose Standard Oil Company was the outstanding example of the trust system, bluntly stated the case for colossal corporations.
It is too late to argue about the advantages of industrial combinations. They are a necessity. I speak from my experience in the business with which I have been intimately connected for about 40 years. Our first combination was a partnership and afterwards a corporation in Ohio. That was sufficient for a local refining business. But dependent solely upon local business, we should have failed years ago. We were forced to extend our markets and to seek for export trade. Every step taken was necessary in the business if it was to be properly developed. And only through such successive steps and by such an industrial combination is America today enabled to utilize the bounty which its land pours forth and to furnish the world with the best and cheapest light ever known, receiving in return, therefore, from foreign lands nearly $50 million per year, most of which is distributed in payment of American labor.
And who were the laborers? Many were immigrants, drawn to America by the hundreds of thousands, drawn by the hope of the new world. In her sonnet, The New Colossus, the American poet Emma Lazarus described the spirit of welcome that America, in turn, extended to its new citizens.
Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land, here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door.
Among the many who heard the voice of the statue and felt its welcome was a Russian family who left the restricted life of Tsarist Russia to find work and tolerance in the New World. The daughter of that family, Mary Antin, remembered well her arrival and first days in America.
In our flat there was no bathtub, so in the evening of the first day, my father conducted us to the public baths. As we moved along in a little procession, I was delighted with the illumination of the streets. So many lamps, and they burned until morning, my father said, so people did not need to carry lanterns. In America, then, everything was free, as we had heard in Russia. Education was free. That subject my father had written about repeatedly as comprising his chief hope for us children. The essence of American opportunity, the treasure that no thief could touch. not even misfortune or poverty.
But the promised land, which attracted millions from abroad, also had its serious and bitter conflicts. In Chicago in 1894, a strike against the Pullman Company spread rapidly until it affected many railroads. John P. Altgeld, governor of Illinois, angrily protested when President Cleveland sent federal troops to enforce order and, in effect, break the strike.
To absolutely ignore a local government in matters of this kind, when the local government is ready to furnish assistance needed and is amply able to enforce the law, not only insults the people of this state by imputing to them an inability to govern themselves or an unwillingness to enforce the law, but is in violation of a basic principle of our institutions. Federal supremacy and local self-government must go hand in hand, and to ignore the latter is to do violence to the Constitution. As governor of the state of Illinois, I protest against this and ask the immediate withdrawal of the federal troops from active duty in this state.
Discontent was not confined to industrial workers. Out of the great agrarian unrest of the 90s, a new political party was born, the Populist Party. Composed of farmers, workers, unionists, and reformers, the party was dedicated to righting economic wrongs and to providing political representatives who would speak up for the common man. One eloquent populist was Mary Elizabeth Lease, the Patrick Henry in petticoats, famous for having told farmers to raise less corn and more hell. Touring the countryside, she told her audiences,
Wall Street owns the country. It is no longer a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, but a government of Wall Street, by Wall Street and for Wall Street. The great common people of this country are slaves, and monopoly is the master. Our laws are the output of a system which clothes rascals in robes and honesty in rags. The parties lie to us, and the political speakers mislead us. We were told 2 years ago to go to work and raise a big crop. That was all we needed. We went to work and plowed and planted. The rains fell, the sun shone, nature smiled, and we raised the big crop that they told us to. And what came of it? 8-cent corn, 10-cent oats, 2-cent beef, and no price at all for butter and eggs. That's what came of it. Then the politicians said we suffered from overproduction. We want money, land, and transportation. We want the abolition of the national banks, and we want the power to make loans direct from the government. We want the accursed foreclosure system wiped out. The people are at bay. Let the bloodhounds of money who have dogged us thus far beware.
From 1892 on, the populist movement was a force to be reckoned with. Republicans and Democrats both were affected by the new party's arguments and mood. One populist demand was for unlimited coinage of silver as well as gold. William Jennings Bryan was a Nebraska Democrat with some populist leanings, and when he spoke at the Democratic National Convention in 1896, he spoke for free silver, a cardinal principle of populist belief. His actual voice is heard in an old recording.
We care not upon what line the battle is fought. If they say bimetallism is good, but that we cannot have it until other nations help us, we reply that instead of having a gold standard, because England has, we will restore bimetallism, and then let England have bimetallism because the United States has. If they dare to come out in the open field and defend the gold standard as a good thing, we will fight them to the uttermost. Having behind us the producing masses of this nation and the world, supported by the commercial interests, the laboring interests, and the toilers everywhere, we will answer their demand for a gold standard by saying to them, you shall not press down upon the brow of labor this crown of thorns. You shall not crucify mankind upon a cross of gold.
Bryan's speech drew a tremendous ovation at the convention, but his stand on silver assured the election of the Republican candidate, William McKinley. And under a reluctant McKinley, America enthusiastically went to war with Spain in 1898. The sinking of the Maine merely provided the excuse that many in the nation had long been waiting for, and Congress authorized intervention, stating,
Resolved by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, first, that the people of the island of Cuba are and of right ought to be free and independent. Second, that the United States does hereby demand that the government of Spain at once relinquish its authority and government in the island of Cuba and withdraw its land and naval forces from Cuba and Cuban waters. Third, that the President of the United States be, and he hereby is, directed and empowered to use the entire land and naval forces of the United States to such extent as may be necessary to carry these resolutions into effect.
The war opened not in Cuba, but in the Spanish Philippines. It began in Manila Bay on May 1st, 1898, with Commodore Dewey's historic order, "You may fire when you are ready, Gridley." The American fleet turned its guns on the Spaniards' warships clustered in the bay. Within a few hours, the battle was over. Dewey's entry in his diary gave a restrained description of his morning's activities.
Reached Manila at daylight. Immediately engaged the Spanish ships and batteries at Cavite. Destroyed 8 of the former, including the Reina Cristina and Castilla. Anchored at noon off Manila.
The war was won, and America was faced with the prospect of empire. What was to be done with those far-flung islands? Would they be held for profit or help towards independence? Men of conscience detested the idea of a war fought only for gain. The poet William Vaughn Moody, in an ode in time of hesitation, voiced his hope that the war would bring freedom to the islanders.
East, west, and south and north, beautiful armies. Oh, by the sweet blood and young, shed on the awful hill slope at San Juan, by the unforgotten names of eager boys who might have tasted girls' love and been stung with the old mystic joys and starry griefs, now the spring nights come on, but that the heart of youth is generous. We charge you, ye who lead us, breathe on their chivalry no hint of stain. Turn not their new world victories to gain.
A few years before, there had appeared a great novel about war by Stephen Crane, a man who had never fought in one. His novel was called The Red Badge of Courage. Although Crane's book is about the Civil War, it transcends the period to describe the timeless conflict between bravery and fear that all men feel when they are faced with death.
He felt a quiet manhood, non-assertive, but of sturdy and strong blood. He knew that he would no more quail before his guides, wherever they should point. He had been to touch the great death, and found that after all, it was but the great death. He was a man. So it came to pass that as he trudged from the place of blood and wrath, his soul changed. He came from hot plowshares to prospects of clover, tranquilly. And it was as if hot plowshares were not. Scars faded as flowers. It rained. The procession of weary soldiers became a bedraggled train, despondent and muttering, marching with churning effort in a trough of liquid brown mud under a low, wretched sky. Yet the youth smiled, for he saw that the world was a world for him. Though many discovered it to be made of oaths and walking sticks, he had rid himself of the red sickness of battle. The sultry nightmare was in the past. He had been an animal blistered and sweating in the heat and pain of war. He turned now with a lover's thirst to images of tranquil skies, fresh meadows, cool brooks, and existence of soft and eternal peace.
In the presidential campaign of 1900, McKinley again faced Bryan. This time, McKinley's running mate was Theodore Roosevelt, a man made nationally popular by the Spanish-American War. But Roosevelt had failed to win the admiration of McKinley's closest advisor, Mark Hanna. Hanna was alarmed by Roosevelt's zeal for vigorous action and reform, and he is said to have exclaimed,
Everybody's gone crazy. What is the matter with all of them? Here's this convention going headlong for Roosevelt, for vice president. Don't any of you realize that there's only one life between that madman and the presidency?
And that one life was taken. On September 6, 1901, at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York, President McKinley stood in a reception line shaking hands. A man whose right hand held a revolver wrapped and hidden in a handkerchief moved along the line, came close, and shot twice. The president swayed and was caught by a bystander. Soldiers quickly captured the assassin. Mortally wounded, McKinley still could speak.
My wife, be careful about her. Don't let her know. Go easy with him, boys. This wound hurts very much.
An ambulance arrived. The crowd outside the exposition hall stood silent now, watching as men carried the president out on a stretcher. To a friend, the president said,
It must have been some poor, misguided fellow.
The assassin, Leon Czolgosz, was an anarchist, the son of an immigrant and the product of poverty. He told the police,
I done my duty. I didn't believe one man should have so much service and another man should have none. I don't believe we should have any rulers.
President McKinley lived for a little more than a week. Then, on the 14th of September, he died. Going to Washington on the funeral train, Mark Hanna said, Now look, that damned cowboy is President of the United States. With Theodore Roosevelt in the White House, the nation...
Thank you.
with me?
Sure.
What's your name?
Judy.
You're sure pretty, Judy.
Thanks. What's your name?
Judy? No, I mean George.
Hi, George.
Hello, Judy.
Prose. This poem is for my wife. I have made it plainly and honestly. The mark is on it like the burl on the knife. I have not made it for praise. She has no more need for praise than summer has, or the bright days. In all that becomes a woman, her words and her ways are beautiful. Love's lovely duty, the well-swept room. Wherever she is, there is sun and time and a sweet air. Peace is there, work done. There are always curtains and flowers and candles and baked bread and a cloth spread and a clean house. Her voice when she sings is a voice at dawn by a freshening sea where the wave leaps in the wind and rejoices. Wherever she is, it is now. It is here where the apples are, here in the stars, in the quick hour. The greatest and richest good my own life to live in, this she has given me, if giver could. You, Andrew Marvell, and here, noonward height, to feel the always coming on, the always rising of the night. To feel creep up the curving east the earthy chill of dusk, and slow upon those underlands the vast and ever-climbing shadow grow. And strange at Ecbatan the trees take leaf by leaf the evening, strange the flooding dark about their knees the mountains over Persia change. And now at Kermanshah the gate dark, empty, and the withered grass, and through the twilight now the late few travelers in the westward pass, and Baghdad darken, and the bridge across the silent river gone, and through Arabia the edge of evening widen and steal on and deepen on Palmyra's street the wheel rut in the ruined stone, and Lebanon fade out, and Crete high through the clouds and overblown, and over Sicily the air still flashing with the landward gulls, and loom and slowly disappear the sails above the shadowy hulls, and Spain go under, and the shore of Africa the gilded sand, and evening vanish, and no more the low pale light across that land, nor now the long light on the sea. And here, face downward in the sun, to feel how swift, how secretly the shadow of the night comes on. Ars Poetica. A poem should be palpable and mute as a globed fruit, dumb as old medallions to the thumb, silent as the sleeve-worn stone of casement ledges where the moss has grown. A poem should be wordless as the flight of birds. A poem should be motionless in time as the moon climbs, leaving, as the moon releases twig by twig the night-entangled trees, leaving, as the moon behind the winter leaves, memory by memory the mind. A poem should be motionless in time as the moon climbs. A poem should be equal to, not true, for all the history of grief, an empty doorway and a maple leaf. For love, the leaning grasses and two lights above the sea. A poem should not mean, but be. L'an 30e de mon âge. And I have come upon this place by lost ways, by a nod, by words, by faces, by an old man's face at Morlaix lifted to the birds, by hands upon the tablecloth at Aldebores, by the thin child's hand that opened to the moth and let the flutter of the moonlight in, by hands, by voices, by the voice of Mrs. Whitman on the stair, by Margaret's, if we had the choice to choose or not, through her thick hair, by voices, by the creak and fall of footsteps on the upper floor, by silence waiting in the hall between the door bell and the door, by words, by voices a lost way. And here above the chimney stack the unknown constellations sway, and by what way shall I go back?
Obsessed by her beauty, kind as noon calm of unfalling petals, motionless and recurring creek, mild park, ambushing the ambler, warning the lover, trespassing required. The birds are so light when they land and hop a little, so light on the blade of the pond grass that it sinks not at all, wings never touch water. And the blade, the untroubled, never even trembling, the pond untingling, the park rippled only by the lover, by the rambler, saying, all was the same. How many times, sometimes with joy has he not said it? And sometimes all was the same. Desperately, all was only that face. Which of us two? When both are strong with tenderness, too wild with oneness to be severance reconciled, when even the touch of fingertips can shock both to such seesaw, mutuality of hot-pressed opposites as smelts a tree tighter to its dryad than to its own tight bark, when neither jokes or mopes or hates alone or wakes untangled from the other, when more warm than soul, more deep than flesh are one in marriage of the very skeleton. When then soil peels mere flesh off half this love and locks it from the unstripped half above, who's ever sure which side of soil he's on? Have I lain seconds here or years like this? I'm sure of nothing else but loneliness and darkness. Here's such black as stuff's a tomb, shared room. For fear my breath is moving and afraid to try to move, knowing only you are... I lie here, it's dark.
Interlude. The element of air was out of hand. The rush of wind ripped off the tender leaves and flung them in confusion on the land. We waited for the first rain in the eaves. The chaos grew as hour by hour the light decreased beneath an undivided sky. Our pupils widened with unnatural night, but still the road and dusty field kept dry. The rain stayed in its cloud. Full dark came near. The wind lay motionless in the long grass. The veins within our hands betrayed our fear. What we had hoped for had not come to pass. Vernal sentiment. Though the crocuses poke up their heads in the usual places, the frogs come up here in the pond with the same froth of green, and boys moon at girls with last year's fatuous faces. I never am bored, however familiar the scene. When from under the barn the cat brings a similar litter, 2 yellow and black, and 1 that looks in between. Though it all happened before, I cannot grow bitter. I rejoice in the spring as if it never had been. The cycle. Dark water, underground, beneath the rock and clay, beneath the roots of trees, moved into common day, rose from a mossy mound in mist that sun could seize. The fine rain coiled in a cloud, turned by revolving air, far from that colder source where elements cohere, dense in the central stone. The air grew loose and loud. Then, with diminished force, the full rain fell straight down, tunneled with lapsing sound, under even the rock-shut ground, under a river's source, under primeval stone. My papa's waltz. The whiskey on your breath could make a small boy dizzy, but I hung on like death. Such waltzing was not easy. We romped until the pans slid from the kitchen shelf. My mother's countenance could not unfrown itself. The hand that held my wrist was battered on one knuckle. At every step you missed, my right ear scraped a buckle. You beat time on my head with a palm caked hard by dirt, then waltzed me off to bed, still clinging to your shirt.
Love calls us to the things of this world. The eyes open to a cry of pulleys, and spirited from sleep, the astounded soul hangs for a moment, bodiless and simple as false dawn. Outside the open window, the morning air is all awash with angels. Some are in bed sheets, some are in blouses, some are in smocks, but truly there they are. Now they are rising together in calm swells of halcyon feeling, filling whatever they wear with the deep joy of their impersonal breathing. Now they are flying in place, conveying the terrible speed of their omnipresence, moving and staying like white water. And now, of a sudden, they swoon down into so rapt a quiet that nobody seems to be there. The soul shrinks from all that it is about to remember, from the punctual rape of every blessed day, and cries, "Oh, let there be nothing on earth but laundry, nothing but rosy hands in the rising steam, and clear dances done in the sight of heaven." Yet, as the sun acknowledges with a warm look the world's hunks and colors, the soul descends once more in bitter love to accept the waking body, saying now in a changed voice as the man yawns and rises, "Bring them down from their ruddy gallows. Let there be clean linen for the backs of thieves. Let lovers go fresh and sweet to be undone, and the heaviest nuns walk in a pure floating of dark habits, keeping their difficult balance." Francis Jammes, a prayer to go to paradise with the donkeys. When I must come to you, O my God, I pray it be some dusty-roaded holiday, and even as in my travels here below, I beg to choose by what road I shall go to paradise, where the clear stars shine by day. I'll take my walking stick and go my way, and to my friends the donkeys I shall say, I am Francis Jammes, and I'm going to paradise, and of the loving God. And I'll say to them, "Come, sweet friends of the blue skies, poor creatures who with a flap of the ears or a nod of the head shake off the buffets, the bees, the flies. Let me come with these donkeys, Lord, into your land, these beasts who bow their heads so gently and stand with their small feet joined together in a fashion utterly gentle, asking your compassion. I shall arrive, followed by their thousands of ears, followed by those with baskets at their flanks, by those who lug the carts of mountebanks or loads of feather dusters and kitchen wares, by those with humps of battered water cans, by bottle-shaped she-asses who halt and stumble, by those tricked out in little pantaloons to cover their wet blue galls where flies assemble in whirling swarms, making a drunken hum. Dear God, let it be with these donkeys that I come, And let it be that angels lead us in peace to leafy streams where cherries tremble in air, sleek as the laughing flesh of girls. And there in that haven of souls, let it be that leaning above your divine waters, I shall resemble these donkeys, whose humble and sweet poverty will appear clear in the clearness of your eternal love.
Bearded oaks here, simple Louisiana oaks. The oaks, how subtle and marine, bearded, and all the layered light above them swims, and thus the scene, recessed, awaits the positive night. So waiting, we in the grass now lie, beneath the languorous tread of light. The grasses, kelp-like, satisfy the nameless motions of the air. Upon the floor of light and time, unmurmuring, of polyp made, we rest. We are, as light withdraws, twin atolls on a shelf of shade. Ages to our construction went, dim architecture hour by hour, and violence, forgot now, lent the present stillness all its power.
I like your feet, I like your nose, but I don't like your crooked toes. No, 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 no. You are nice, but I'm divine. Oh yes, you're nice, but I'm divine. You are nice, but I'm divine. Hold it, hold it. What's the matter with you, Harry? What are you singing in the wrong places for?
I ain't singing. I got my ear caught in the guitar string.
Oh.
No, 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 no.
Yeah, I got an offer just the other day. Better than a Hollywood, yes, sirree. I got an offer and I'm telling you, it was from the San Diego Zoo. I got a feeling that you're mad for me. I got a feeling that you're mad for me. Oh, me pants are tight, me heels are high, and I got hair growing in me eye. Go on, Alfie, play that saxophone. They do love us here, don't they, boys?
These are Buddhist monks in the city of Saigon, the capital of South Vietnam. It's a lovely city with broad boulevards, cafes chic with remembered Frenchness and pretty girls on bicycles. American soldiers there don't see its charm. Since 1961, almost 300 Americans have died in that country, and no one says that there won't be more. Saigon, temple bells and Buddhist monks in bright saffron robes who chant together in some unknown discipline. And beyond the city, Unknown numbers of the Viet Cong raid and burn, and the end is not in sight. Viet Cong rebels, disciplined and well supplied from bases in communist North Vietnam, have for years fought tenaciously and skillfully to overthrow the American-supported Saigon governments. The fighting is frequently at night, brief but vicious encounters in which one side tries to defend the hundreds of little villages scattered throughout the country, the other to capture, or failing this, to destroy. The war is relatively minor in its scope, but tremendous in potential. It is American guns against Russian and Chinese guns, a place where we and they confront each other with only a pretense in between. There have been 5 new governments since the beginning of the year. They changed nothing. A near showdown came this summer. On August 2nd, the USS destroyer Maddox was cruising in the waters of Tonkin Gulf, about 30 miles off the coast of North Vietnam. 3 PT boats from North Vietnam approached the Maddox and attacked. The Maddox returned the fire. 4 United States fighter planes joined in. The PT boats were driven off. 2 days later, the attackers tried it again. The Maddox and the Sea Turner Joy, another destroyer, hit back. It was a 3-hour action in rough seas. 25 of the attacking patrol boats were hit. There was no damage to United States ships. The attacks ended.
And this year, on the little Mediterranean island of Cyprus, another brutal reminder that the world's affairs are in disorder. Archbishop Makarios, president of Cyprus, charged that some parts of the country's constitution inhibited progress and so should be struck out. The Turks on Cyprus, jealous of their liberty, objected. Vicious fighting broke out.
If they keep on shooting to this hospital, there will be nothing. And if there is no place to keep the wounded ones, then we are all gone. We're finished.
The island is too small for an easy war. United Nations troops were landed in March and a kind of sullen order was restored. But horror, known intimately, is not quickly forgotten. A woman, a Turkish nurse, tried to define it.
I repeat and repeat that. Yesterday we couldn't get our dead bodies, and we left them. We could have shot them down because the ambulance came right here. But our men didn't do that. Why? Because it was a wounded. And you don't shoot somebody which doesn't hold gun in her hand. You only shoot people which they hold gun.
And there was another voice this year, a calm voice, strong with courage.
The Army is regrouping between us, somewhere between us and Stanleyville, and we will have to see what comes next.
It was in the Congo. The rebels who opposed the fragile leadership of Moise Tshombe overran a number of towns in the northeast. They captured some Europeans and a few Americans as they went. Here is Dr. Paul E. Carlson, an American missionary in the Congo.
They could take us out by river. But all is calm here, and we thank God for that.
He did not survive. In some monstrous proceedings, he was called a spy, and he died in a rebel-killing spree just minutes before rescue came. Belgian paratroopers flown in American planes landed at Stanleyville, the rebel capital, and took the town. They rescued hundreds, but for many it was too late. And in the Congo, as in Vietnam, the fighting goes on, and the night's dead are part of every morning. And there are children who no longer weep at killing.
They're battling for the championship of the world. They're battling shoulder to shoulder. They're not.
Tokyo outdid itself for the Olympics. The waiters learned English, or at least enough to comprehend the subtle difference between scrambled eggs and stewed corn. There were flags everywhere, nice places to stay, and for elated Americans, gold medals in swimming, basketball, and a gratifying number of track events. But the big one was the 10,000-meter run. This country had never won it before. 6 miles is a long run for any American, and here's how it ended.
Clark is taking him. No, Gamoudi is saving off the challenge. Clark is sprinting. Gamoudi is out in front by you. Here comes Mills of the USA. Mills of the USA. He won. He won. Followed by Gamoudi and Clark. Olympic record. 28 minutes, 24 and 1/10 seconds. What a fantastic victory for the United States.
Professional football continued to draw big crowds and big money, but there were some changes. Y.A. Tittle of the New York Giants was out, and Johnny Unitas of the Baltimore Colts was in. And in baseball, Yogi Berra was in, out, and in again. He was picked to manage the Yankees, won the pennant, lost the series, and was promptly fired. Just as promptly, he was hired by the New York Mets. The significance of all this is a little difficult to say with certainty, and perhaps the best comment is to quote Yogi himself in a classic comment on the shadows in the Yankee Stadium outfield. It gets late out there early.
Potatoes are cheaper, tomatoes are cheaper. Now's the time to fall.
There is, I suppose, a whole generation now to whom this voice is strange and unfamiliar. His name was Eddie Kent. He had big eyes, a brash voice, and an odd kind of appeal. In a business that is permissive and uncritical of personal laxity, he was austere and disciplined. He had a long apprenticeship in his craft, and indeed, his whole life was a process of learning how to be gay, how to be funny. In this, he was eminently successful. There were the vaudeville years, Broadway shows, Ziegfeld Follies, movies, and in the decade of the 30s, a radio show where he made fun of the Depression and told all of his old vaudeville jokes and sang this song.
If you capture your steady, just name the first Eddie. Now's the time to fall in love.
He died on October 10th in Hollywood of a coronary occlusion. He was 72.
And there was another this year, Gracie Allen of Burns and Allen.
Well, Gracie, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody. What do I do now? Well,
and there were others, of course. Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, student of Gandhi and Thoreau and British law, a leader of the Indian independence movement, inventor of a kind of aggressive neutrality. There was Lord Beaverbrook and Lady Astor, Alan Ladd and William Bendix, Cole Porter and Harpo Marx, and at the age of 84 and stubbornly after 3 operations, General of the Army, Douglas MacArthur. He had been a man of many controversies. This much was beyond dispute. He fought as well as any general this country has ever known, and in his speeches, he topped them all.
I now close my military career and just fade away. An old soldier who tried to do his duty as God gave him the light to see that duty. Goodbye.
And at the age of 90, Herbert Clark Hoover, 31st President of the United States. He was president when the Depression came and suffered the penalty that all pay who are in the wrong place at the wrong time. He knew vindication of a sort, at least in his later years, and it must have given him satisfaction and solace. His memories were long and deep.
I was taken from this village to the far west 78 years ago. The only material assets which I had were 2 dimes in my pocket, the suit of clothes that I wore, and I had some extra underpinnings provided by loving aunts. But I carried from here something much more precious. I had a stern grounding of religious faith. I carried with me recollections of a joyous childhood where the winter snow...
And it's a measure of his greatness that his personal memories were part of the folk memories of the land.
This was not a memorable year in the arts. There were still 7 of them, and they were still reasonably lively, but there was no single book or play that overshadowed all others.
The most significant book of 1964 was, in a sense, not a book at all. It was a report, the published findings of the Warren Commission after 10 months of hearings into the assassination of President John Kennedy. In this country, but more especially in Europe, there were those who said that Lee Harvey Oswald was acting in concert with others, that there were power groups, foreign and domestic, who impelled him to his act. The commission said that this was not so, and Texas Governor John Connally, who was wounded when the president died, thought it might stem the rumors.
If you will recall, there were a great many reports, rumors, rampant throughout this country and particularly all over Europe, that this was the result of a conspiracy. I have never felt that it was. The commission finds that it was not. And I think this will have a particularly salutary effect throughout the country, throughout the free world.
And in Dallas, Texas, on March 14th, some unfinished business was completed. The jury, deliberating the guilt or innocence of Jack Ruby, the killer of Oswald, announced that they had reached a verdict. Judge Joe B. Brown, following custom, repeated the verdict and the sentence.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder with malice as charged in the indictment and assess his punishment at death. Signed, Max E. Causey, Foreman. So say you all, ladies and gentlemen. Is that your unanimous verdict? All right, Sheriff, he's your prisoner.
The sentence, by the way, was appealed, and that, too, is proper, but most of us wanted only to get on to other things.
Glad to see you, Hank. Let's thank my lucky star.
On Broadway, musicals predominated again, with David Merrick's Hello, Dolly the biggest hit. Carol Channing's singing of the title song became the biggest political sound of the year, with new lyrics.
Hello, Mr. President. This is Carol, Mr. President. Carol Channing, come to sing a song for you. Hello, Lyndon. Well, hello, Lyndon. We'd be proud to have you back where you belong.
The Democrats already had their president. There would be no midnight compromises, no smoke-filled rooms, none of the drama of a roll call. Their problem at the convention was to jazz it up, and they did it fairly well.
Band playing and the folks saying that the people know that you've got so much more. So flash that smile, Lyndon. Show us that winning style, Lyndon. Promise you'll stay with us in 64.
The leading candidate for vice president was Hubert H. Humphrey, the liberal senator from Minnesota. The president might have announced his choice months before the convention, but Mr. Johnson held off his announcement, and there was a certain tension among newsmen. Even Humphrey himself was not entirely sure. It was a good example of how suspense can create interest. People who run beauty contests have used the same technique for years. President Johnson played it as far as he could. Governor Pat Brown of California, maybe, or New York's Mayor Wagner. When he finally tipped his hand, you could almost forget that the issue had never really been an issue at all.
I hope that you will choose as the next Vice President of the United States my close, my long time, my trusted colleague, Senator Hubert Humphrey of Minnesota.
Mr. Humphrey, like Mr. Johnson, is supremely professional. And when they run a show, it's professional too. Here is Hubert Humphrey in top form. The subject of his remarks, the record of Barry Goldwater, senator from Arizona.
Most Democrats and Republicans in the Senate voted for an $11.5 billion tax cut for American citizens and American business, but not Senator Goldwater. Most Democrats and Republicans in the Senate voted for the National Defense Education Act, but not the temporary. And my fellow Americans, most Democrats and most Republicans in the Senate voted to help the United Nations in its peacekeeping functions when it was in financial difficulty, but not Senator Goldwater.
You could almost forget at times that the key figure was not there at all. Almost, but not quite.
Mr. Chairman.
Sometimes he seemed to fill the room. He was a giant, of course, and taller in death than most men are in life. His voice was not heard.
But for one almost shocking moment, it seemed to be, the same inflection, the same broad A, Robert Kennedy spoke of his brother. And the applause that came 16 minutes in an eerie, spontaneous ovation was a tribute not for the living, but for the dead.
I wish to speak just for a few moments. I first want to thank all of you as delegates to the Democratic National Convention and the supporters of the Democratic Party for all that you did for President John F. Kennedy. When there were difficulties, you sustained him. When there were periods of crisis, you stood beside him. When there were periods of happiness, you laughed with him. And when there were periods of sorrow, you comforted him. I realize that as an individual, that we can't just look back, that we must look forward. When I think of President Kennedy, I think of what Shakespeare said in Romeo and Juliet, when he shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars, and he shall make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night and pay no worship to the garish sun. I realize
it is not easy to walk in another man's footsteps. In his acceptance speech, President Johnson made it clear he wanted to go his own way.
Our problems are many and are great, but our opportunities are even greater. And let me make this clear. I ask the American people for a mandate not to preside over a finished program, not just to keep things going. I ask the American people for a mandate to begin.
Certainly one of the most significant political decisions of 1964 was made by the Democratic Convention, the creation of a permanent committee to help in the registration of Negroes in Mississippi and to see to it that they may participate without hindrance at every level of the Democratic Party in that state.
We were promised this time that the American people would be offered a choice and not an echo. This was to be a debate about basic principles. And what do we hear? We hear not philosophy, but mudslinging. Not ideas, but smears and scandal. Not programs, but the old worn-out slogans of an old worn-out effort written by the same old worn-out man trying to frighten the American people.
Across the country, we began to choose up sides.
The election campaign was hectic, reasonably true to form, and much, much too long.
Well, I don't think you're going to let it work, are you? I think I can tell you why they're doing it. They found out that the American people...
Because I'm not sure they know what they're doing. But it's a fact that Johnson and his curious crew...
Goldwater attacked Johnson and Humphrey. Humphrey attacked Goldwater and ignored Miller. Miller concentrated on Humphrey, and Johnson blandly insisted he wasn't campaigning at all.
Seem to believe that progress in this country is best served simply and directly through the ever-expanding gift power of the everlastingly growing federal government. Now, one thing we all know, and I assure you I do.
What is at issue here is not Mr. Goldwater's private life, but rather his public role, his public posture in American politics. He's a decent citizen, he's loyal, he's patriotic. I think he'd make a good neighbor, but clearly he's unqualified to be President of the United States.
I am telling you, ladies and gentlemen, that this war in South Vietnam is never going to be ended, and it's never going to be won.
until Barry Goldwater is President of the United States of America.
Johnson won easily. The Republicans picked up one governor's chair, and a few of the senators and congressmen who had declined to support Goldwater survived the great Johnson landslide. But it was slim comfort. Governor Romney of Michigan kept his seat, thus moving into the front ranks of the battered GOP leadership. Former White House press secretary, newly appointed Senator Pierre Salinger, failed in his re-election bid in a close race with one-time movie star George Murphy. Robert Kennedy beat the veteran Kenneth Keating and joined his brother Ted in the United States Senate. The Democratic sweep was massive. The Republicans didn't just lose, they were shattered. Only Mr. Goldwater himself seemed to find some solace. After the returns were in, and a little later than customary, he made his concession, an appearance that did not sound quite so much an admission of failure as a call to battle.
I have no bitterness, no rancor at all. I say to the President, as a fellow politician, that he did a wonderful job. He put together a vote total that's larger than has ever been gained in this country. This effort that we engaged in last January the 3rd turns out to be a much longer effort than we thought. It's not an effort that we can drop now, nor do we have any intentions of dropping it now.
In Britain, in a campaign a great deal shorter than ours and so restrained it occasionally took on all the excitement of a literary debate, Sir Alec Douglas Hume was defeated as Prime Minister, Harold Wilson was in Commons there was a tiny Labor majority. And that same week, this.
Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev speaking by radio to 3 Russian cosmonauts circling the Earth in a spaceship. From Moscow, the following day, this.
Announced in Moscow that Leonid Brezhnev has been elected first secretary of the Soviet Communist Party's Central Committee. Alexei Kosygin has been appointed chairman of the USSR Council of Ministers. Both the Central Committee plenum and the session of the Parliament's Presidium satisfied Nikita Khrushchev's request to relieve him from the duties of first secretary of the party's Central Committee, as member of the Central Committee's Presidium, and chairman of the USSR Council of Ministers.
It took a couple of days, but Radio Moscow finally explained why.
To harebrained planning, half-baked conclusions and hasty decisions, and actions divorced from reality, bragging.
Communist China's Radio Peking had a different idea about Khrushchev's sins.
Communist construction. He tried in 1,001 ways to switch back to the old path of capitalism, the world's first socialist state, which the Soviet people, under the leadership of Lenin and Stalin, had created by their sweat and blood.
And that same week, Communist China made some startling and frightening news of its own.
The Chinese nuclear device was exploded at a test site near a lake called Lapnor in the Taklamakan Desert of the remote Central Asian province, Xinjiang. Nuclear spread is dangerous to all mankind. The lesson of Lapnor is that we are right to recognize the danger of nuclear spread, that we must.
You know, when I was a little boy, people always laughed, other kids. You know how kids are cruel to other kids. If you're slow in your grades or you got an inflection in one way or the other, they laugh. A girl once laughed at me on the bus because my mother was sick and couldn't iron my shirt. We didn't even have a living room suit in our home. And if we'd have had one, us kids were so dumb, we wouldn't have known how to treat it. So the old man's problem was smart, so he didn't get one when he was able to afford one. I remember getting on the bus, though, and there's one little girl sitting over there. She says, Glenn, says, you're not a bad-looking boy. Says, don't pay no attention to him. Says, all you need is a little soap and water. So I went home and got me some soap and water, and I became a new boy. And from that day to this, I went forward. As long as you let people laugh at you and let them beat you down and you give up, that's what they want to do. They really don't mean any harm by it. They just don't think. When I was 8 years old, I wrote to Santa Claus, and I asked Santa Claus to bring me a little tricycle. My cousin wrote to Santa Claus that his daddy made $100 a week. He was rich. We were sharecroppers. And Christmas morning, I looked in my room where I figured I ought to have that nice, shiny new tricycle, and I had apples and oranges. I went over to his house, and the most beautiful tricycle you've ever seen in your life, in the red and white. I went out behind the barn, and I cried most of that day. The next year, I was 9 years old, and I wrote for an air rifle. He wrote for an air rifle, and I made sure I wrote my letter exactly like he wrote his. Right down to the thing, and of course my spelling was off. But I wrote it just the way. The next morning I had apples and oranges. He had the most beautiful daisy red Ryder air rifle you ever seen in your life. Wouldn't even let me shoot it till the units wore off about a week later. The next year I wrote for a new pony. He wrote for a new pony. I figured I was just as good as he was. I was real careful all year, especially the last 2 months. Make sure that I didn't do anything wrong. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. You know, no, sir. No, ma'am. I was real nice to everybody. All strangers. I didn't know who might be talking to Santa Claus. After I was so nice, the next morning, Santa Claus was there again with apples and oranges. I didn't cry that day. I went out behind the barn and I said to myself, okay, Santa Claus, if that's the way you want to play. From that day to this, I have been my own Santa Claus. There comes a time in a man's life when he has to wake up, and mine was 11 years old. When I plowed that mule from day to day, I thought that how dumb I could be to follow a stupid animal. I should be in front at least, shouldn't I? My daddy told me to get a job making $100 a week and stick to it, and one of these days I'd have something. I said, Daddy, that's what you did. I said, well, you get your mule off my cotton. My daddy is now in the cosmetic business. My brother is now in the cosmetic business. My uncle is now in the cosmetic business, training a class in old Miami, Florida. It took me 8 months to condition him right. It took me 8 months to brainwash him into believing in himself. Finally, Mr. Turl Jones in the back is the one he respected and admired. He's not going to listen to his own nephew. Because when I was 11 years old, he looked at me and I was sitting up on top of a mule dragging tobacco. And he all ever drug tobacco. Driving that mule, he was down there cropping tobacco. He just got out of service. He said, boy, I reckon you'll ever mount to anything. I said, I'm higher up than you are. People worry about saturation. If we could saturate the market, and Avon has only 5% of it, they've been in business 80 years. If there was such a thing as saturation, the Christians have been trying to saturate the world for 2,000 years, they hadn't done it yet. And that's a greater product than we'll ever have. It's the only one. If there was such a thing, I would start you another company with soap powder and put make oil in the dishwashing detergent to keep the ladies out. Take my distributors where we are overstocked in the area, and I'd put you in this company and make you the head officials in nothing. And you would still make just as much money. And this is what our competition is afraid of. They don't understand the power we have of organizing people and promoting fast. They don't understand helping one another. People everywhere in this country are hungry for somebody to believe in, for a purpose, for somebody to go with. They love to help their neighbors, but they know in most jobs you can't do that. You've got to try to get there before he does, don't you? The man or woman who sits in this audience today and looks at his prospect, his suspect, is how much money he's going to make on him right then and there will fail in this company. And we'll have failures. You know why? It's because some of these stories and some of these well-meaning friends and relatives and attorneys will get to your attitude and tell you can't do it, and you'll give up and quit. And you'll quit in any business if you do that. don't ever be defeated. I had a town called Atlanta, Georgia. It was going up and down, up and down. Somebody said, well, leave it alone. You're spending more money than you're making there. I said, if I leave it alone, I'm a failure there. If I'm a failure there, every time I get stuff anywhere else, I'll quit there too, won't I? We do not quit. When I get my foot in the door, I'm in. I used to sell sewing machines door to door. When that foot's in there, I'm in door. A winner never quits, and a quitter never wins. In the beginning, when I had 12 people in a room telling them I was going to be the #1 cosmetic company with no product sitting on the table, you should see how they looked at me. It didn't bother me, because I knew I was better talker than they were, and I was When I left another company and went into this company, Miss Ruth McDade switched over. She'd rather switch than fight. Ladies and gentlemen, you're not only looking at a cosmetic company, you're looking at a movement. America needs something. Togetherness. But we have distributors throughout the United States and in 11 other countries, and some of you people will be running these countries. And there'll be other companies, subsidiaries, can't even pronounce the word. What is it? I only got to the 8th grade. I'm glad I didn't get no further because I'd have figured out why it wouldn't work. I actually thought when I went into the cosmetic business that I could get products in 2 weeks. I really did. I thought you just went down there and bought them. If I'd have known all this, I'd have probably never went in business. Anytime you sit down and figure out how to do everything and send everything to work, you can always find something to keep it from working so you won't ever start it. You ever heard of a man, I'll get married as soon as I save enough money to build a house? We never gets married, does he? Well, honey, I'll buy you that, but we got to do so-and-so. He never gets it, does he? He never builds that back room, does he? You men that have your wives behind you, you are fortunate. You know, behind every good man is a good woman. Most of the time, it's not his wife. In this case, I am proud to say it is. I've seen women sit at home and laugh at their husband, and you idiot, you ain't gonna do nothing. Our counselor's wife is the one that is most guilty. For the first 2 months, until she seen that big fat check roll in there, you ain't gonna do that with that. All the neighbors laughed at him, called him the ding-dong kid. The smacking, hey, Al, you smell it even lately? They're not laughing anymore. He rolled by that big tornado. The little world will laugh at you when you try to be different. But the big world will cheer you across the finish line when you reach your goal. If you can keep your head while all others about you are losing theirs, you can be a man. Kipling wrote this, and I believe it. Stop and think and then act. I had rather have a second-rate decision made immediately than a first-rate decision made 3 weeks from now. I don't know how to express to you people the love I have in my heart for you. As far as you know, I can be one of the smoothest, greatest con men that ever walked the face of this earth. Only my Lord and Jesus Christ knows what I speak is true when it comes down to the bare facts. I'm true and he knows it. And when I get upstairs, if you're true, you'll be there too. I love people. The people that ridicule me, they only do it because they don't understand me. They don't know me. They've never met me. They've never met my 3 little boys that I'm proud of and my wife that never complains. We have never had a fuss. I have been happily married 4 years, and that ain't bad out of 7, isn't it, ladies? You know, next Wednesday I'll be jumping all over North Carolina. Elizabeth City one night, Wednesday night, Roanoke Rapids Thursday night, Raleigh Friday night, Saturday in Jacksonville. The next week I'll be in Charlotte, Greensboro, and Fayetteville, and New Bern, all over the state. I'm going to have to be waiting for my family. I keep telling my wife, well, honey, next week I won't have to go out so much. She understands that you have invested your hard-earned money in this company. You women have got to be just as big to your husband and let him get out here. Because when I came in as a distributor, I worked 5 nights a week, not piddling around 1 and 2 nights. I had 3 meetings, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and business training on Tuesday and Thursday. I supported my whole area out of my pocket. I was in debt $9,000 in my area before I got it rolling. Plus I was in debt $9,000 before from other debt. I earned $28,500 the second 30-day business and caught it up. If you're not willing to go out on a limb, you're not going to get the fruit. I've never seen it next to the tree. Listen to Jim Moodle. Here's a man that's made the money. Here's a man that told me the first day he laid eyes on me with about 20 people in the school. It blasts over somewhere there. He said, you're either the greatest con man I ever heard of, or you got something going for you, boy, and I'm with you. I'm going to find out which. No man reaches these positions unless he's qualified. Don't ever go around picking things apart. Go around figuring out how to make it work better for you, and you'll have a happy, more rewarding life. You're looking at the most happiest man on the face of this earth. You do not have another organization in the state of Virginia with any more enthusiasm and any more positive thinking than you have in this group here today. You people are more powerful than any 10-1 person. You're stronger than any 110 people you meet on that street. Because they have never had the benefit of sitting in one of our schools. And if you're young in this company and you've been in only 2 or 3 days and you're a little nervous, you have got a good right to be. You get yourself in school and get your attitude right. And you don't never give up. Because when you give up, you are dead. Don't ever give anybody the satisfaction of beating you into the ground. We've been brainwashed. It's normal for us to not think big. We've been told when we get out of college to get us a job with a good retirement plan. And stick with it. When we're 7 years old, we learn to read and write. When we're 25, we learn to make a decent living. It doesn't take any enormous amount of brains to make a decent living in this country. Any idiot can do it. There's $1.65 to minimum wage law, isn't it? And some of them that get it don't deserve it. And some of them that get that deserve more because their bosses are too greedy to pay them anymore. I paid all my executives more than I felt like they were worth when they come with me, and now they're worth more than I ever can pay them because I believed in them. I paid them a month in advance. My accountant said, what do you pay them in advance for? You're tying up $40,000, $50,000 a month there that you can be drawing interest on. I said, I want them to know that I believe in them enough to keep them a month. Every person on the staff of our home office would work for nothing as long as they could have the strength from the lack of food, if they couldn't get it, to crawl in that building, I'll guarantee you. With the exception maybe of a couple of young girls who don't know what's going on there. When you know you are right, there's nobody and no power on the face of this earth can stop you. Unless you just crumble and run. We are a big, large cake. And if we chop it up and let it drizzle out, we are weak. Now, when you leave here and go home today, you're going to have to talk with a man that's all about this. If you know, yeah, boy, I know you shouldn't have done it. I told you, idiot, I'm glad I didn't go. He's going to arouse you. Your little girl is going to cry at school Monday morning. They're going to get her, too. It's happened already. You just have to take her and tell her, honey, the battle's not over yet. It's just begun. When the Wright brothers pulled the plane out at Kitty Hawk, the newspapers didn't even think they were worth a story. They didn't even bother to send our editor out there or a news reporter. There was a man that had another plane that he had tested for 2 years. Every day he would drag it out of his barn and he tested it. And it was perfect running condition, but he couldn't get the nerve up to fly. After the Wright brothers flew, the next day he pulled it out and he flew it. The newspapers began to cover it. The newspaper men have given me equal opportunity to speak. I'd like to praise them here. I don't know whether we have one in the audience today or not. They were invited down. Probably they didn't come because we didn't pick them up. You do have to pick them up. Somebody's guilty, ain't If they understood this program, they would be in it. This is still a country where a man or a woman can still reach the stars if you're willing to stand on your toes just a little bit.
So sad and lonely, sobbed a tearful little child. Since dear Mama's gone to heaven, Papa, darling, you've not smiled. I will speak to her and tell her that we want her to come home. Just you listen and I'll call her through the telephone. Hello, Central, give me heaven, for my mama's there. You can find her with the angels on the golden stair. She'll be glad it's me who's speaking. Call her, won't you please? For I want to surely tell her we're so lonely
And Judas is their rolling thunder, every valley fills. Like rain we fall, like rain we fall. Oh, send a shelter from the fiery blast, and clear the sky that death has overcast. Spread thy strong wings o'er us till storms are past. Yes, spare us all. Oh, show me, Lord, how I may save this land. Make duty understand, and keep me in the hollow of thine hand. By thy great might, by thy great
While the shot and shell were screaming upon the battlefield, the boys in blue were fighting their noble flag to shield. Came a cry from their brave captain, "Look, boys, our flag is down. Who'll volunteer to save it from disgrace?" "I will," a young voice shouted, "I'll bring it back or die," then sprang into the thickest of the fray. Saved the flag, but gave his young life, all for his country's sake. They brought him back and softly heard him say, "Just break the news to Mother. She knows how dear I love her, and tell her not to wait for me, for I'm not coming home." just say there is no other can take the place of mother. Then kiss her dear sweet lips for me and break the news to her. Lucy, Lucy, you're in danger. Stop that sitting there and smiling at that stranger. He'll deceive you, hurt and grieve you.
Come outside with me and I'll protect you, dear. I came a-calling on Lucy. I walked 27 miles. I even wrote her a poem, but when I got to her home, she was smiling very pretty at a fella from the city, not me. Oh no,
oh no,
smiling very pretty at a fella from the city, not me.
Lucy, Lucy, you're in danger. Stop that sitting there and smiling at that stranger. He'll deceive you, hurt and grieve you.
Come outside with me and I'll protect you, dear. I feel sorry for Lucy. She's kissing him a lot. Her pretty head's in a whirl. She's such an innocent girl. She's a kissing and a cooing and she don't know what she's doing, poor girl. Oh no,
oh no,
kissing and a cooing and she don't know what she's doing, poor girl. Lucy, Lucy, you're in danger.
Oh, shut up, Henry, and go on home.
Hey, all you people better listen to me. Hey, all you scallywags and sinners. Hey, heed to what I'm saying. It's time you started praying. It's time you quit your wicked ways. I mean now. Find the right road. Find the good road. It's a small road and it's straight and narrow. You will know it when you see it. Get upon it and cross to the other side. Sing!
Find the right road. Find the good road. It's a small road and it's straight and narrow. You will know it when you see it. Get upon it and cross to the other side.
The devil's got you and he won't turn you loose. He's got you scallywags and sinners. You men and all you women, he's laughing while you're sinning. You gotta turn that devil out. How? Find the right road, find the good road. It's a small road and it's straight and narrow. You will know it when you see it. Get upon it and cross to the other side. Sing!
Find the right road, find the good road. It's a small road and it's straight and narrow. You will know it when you see it. Get upon it and cross to the other side.
My friends, you gotta stop your hard-hearted ways. I mean you scallywags and sinners. The devil's crop you're growing with all the oats you're sowing. There's only one way to be saved. Listen to me. Find the right road. Find the good road. It's a small road and it's straight and narrow. You will know it when you see it. Get upon it and cross to the other side. Sing, children!
Find the right road. Find the good road. It's a small road and it's straight and narrow. You will know it when you see it. Get upon it and cross to the other side.
Cross to the other side.
crazy for your cousin Mary, sister Gloria, and they're gonna try to steal you away. Oh, Freddie, handsome Freddie, can't you see that I'm the one who loves you true?